Welcome to the Reese Report. I'm the mouth of North Andrew Reese, and I am very, very happy to have Beyond back on the show. Took us a while to hook up, little family issues here and there, timing here and there, but you see, everything happens for a reason because this is the perfect time. See, because the Raptors are 20 games through the regular season at 9-11. We are one quarter past the season that has just happened. The Raptors had 5 days off because of the in-season tournament. And now they play Wednesday against Miami. So what better time to talk with Beyond about the Raptors before they restart their second quarter of the season after a ridiculously up and down first quarter of the season. Beyond, how are you? And do you have gray hairs watching the Raptors?
Well, I already had a few already, so they've added a few. It's been a wild 20 games. Any type of game you wanted, you got your feast in this case. It was like something for everybody. Let's put it that way.
Man, oh man, I went into this season thinking I wouldn't be as frustrated as I was last year, and I'm more frustrated. So the jury's out. It's only 20 games, but man, this has been crazy. But I'm here to talk about things that have concerned me. I have 3 questions for Beyond about the first 20 games. For those who don't know, Beyond was on a Hopeful show recently. He did a nice big recap of the first 20 games. Please, I encourage you to watch that, and as you watch this as well, because this should interest you as well. So, Beyond, I'm going to talk about Pascal Siakam. I've wanted to talk to you about Pascal Siakam since I've had you on the show. We haven't had an in-depth discussion about him, but here's what I want to talk about. I tweeted this a few days ago, guys. We'll try to put the tweet up for you so you can follow along. This is what I wrote about Pascal Siakam. He has not made more than 1 3 in a month. I'm not making this up. In that time, he's made 5 total threes. 5 for 52 from the field, guys. That's 9.6%.
Dumpster fire!
As my wife yells dumpster fire in the background. He is now the worst three-point shooter in the league, guys, at 19%. I wish I was making this up. I'm not. My opinion on this is this man should not be shooting threes. He should have his ass in the block and in the paint. And this roamer garbage that Darko has going on with him needs to stop, and stop now. I understand the spacing issues. I understand Yak is in there, but this man cannot be used this way anymore. My question to you, Beyond, is why is this happening? Is Pascal suffering from a confidence issue with his shot? Is he rushing it? Is the roamer roll messing him up? What is the cause of this ridiculous 3-point percentage? And why do you think it's happening?
I think it's a few things, actually. I think it's one of those things where it's like always say a bunch of things coming in to create the storm. There's a bunch of factors involved in it. First factor, I think the beginning of the season, I think, is part of it in this case here. When they're force feeding to shoot threes, I think it created kind of a bit of, to your point, you want to call it a confidence issue or a mental block, whatever you might want to call it. That's possibly one part of it. Second part of it is where he's getting the threes, and in this case, a lot of times he's getting the threes for the most part, above the break. Now, I don't mind him shooting them above the break, but it'll get to my next point. The reason why, I don't think it's necessarily above the break in my mind as much as it now is him being a spot up. Some guys are good catching it in the corners. Some guys are good above the break. Some guys are good at just in a flow. And it seems to me more and more, Siakam needs to be in a rhythm. I think the jump shot, just how he shoots for example, how he shoots his mid-range jump shot. It's always got some type of form motion. It's not usually a catch and shoot, but I think he's probably effective anyways, because the irony is, I think I heard this today on the Raptors show, as bad as he's shooting the stats you gave there at the 3-point line, he's actually shooting, I think, career highs within the 2-point percentage. He's almost automatically in there. Be it the post, the mid-range, wherever it is. Except for the free throw line, which, seems to be creeping up slowly.
I didn't go there.
I'm not worried about the free throw shooting. That's going to creep back up. It's already starting to creep back up. I think he's around 73, 74. At one point, he's at 69. So it's moving. And I think, once again, that actually speaks to my point. He's a rhythm player. and the more opportunities he gets at the free throw line, the more he'll get there. The problem with him is he's not a guy that is a sporadic shooter. I find a lot of times with his 3-point shot, be it now any part of it as a catch and shoot, it's sitting in his hands almost like a dead weight when he gets it. Like in my mind, in my eyes, when I watch him hit a mid-range jump shot versus when he's shooting a 3-point shot, it looks like it's a different shot. It looks like he's almost like pushing it and praying for it to go in versus the fluid type of assertive type of way it is as a mid-range shot. Just 2 feet in. It's a different type of shot. And I think maybe one of the things they need to start thinking with Pascal, if he's going to shoot threes, just do like they're doing with him the first year after, the year after Kawhi. He was just pulling up from 3 off of a mini break, wherever the case would be. I think that might actually be better for him. It just seems to be a much more natural type of form and natural way for him to shoot jump shots. And forget the catch and shoot stuff for the time being. Just have him, I mentioned this on Basketball Rewind, just have him, if you can shoot threes, let him shoot that way. Just in the flow, and he pulls up for 3. And it's a much more natural shot for him. It just feels like a longer version of his mid-range. But if he's got to sit and catch and shoot, it's playing his head now where he's like, do I shoot or do I pass it to the other guy? I'm not even sure. And it's like once you're hesitating, man, it's over. You lost. It doesn't matter what you do. Yeah. So I think that's it. I don't think he's going to shoot 19-20% for the rest of the season. I think at some point it will creep back up. We'll get back up to say 30-31%. That will require him to have a bit of a hot stretch. And I'm not sure that's possible, but I think over time it'll creep back up closer to it. But to me, it plays into another discussion, and I don't want to jump too far of it, but it plays to what you're mentioning in the, where his strengths are in the post. And I think there's some ways they can get around that to make that a little easier for him, and easier for the team.
How much of this is Darko, and should he be shooting 4 threes a game?
I mean, last year he shot about 2 or 3 a game. I think it really has to do with like guys not knowing. I think for some guys they're not knowing where they're getting the ball. I think that is part of Darko's offense that's creating this. I mean, there's a guy you have a jersey up behind there that could probably speak to that in this case here. As he told Lou today, his shot hasn't changed since
we'll get to that.
So to me, that tells me there's something bigger going on, right? Because obviously, we'll get that gentleman, but if he is shooting as bad as he is, and Pascal is shooting who career-wise is about 32-33% three-point shooter, he's enough to hold his own. Also, to be dropping 10, 12 points, it tells me there's more going on here than just he's just having a bad spell. I mean, for a while, Trent was in a slump. So there's something going on here. And I think part of it is guys don't know where they're getting shots.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a few times where 2 guys end up in the same spot where the ball is, i.e. Precious Achiuwa. We've seen this. I'm not going to talk about Precious today, but guys, you've seen it. You've seen it. He ends up in spots where other players are because he didn't know where to be on the floor. So I'm not going to go there. I will say this about Pascal. He's shooting 49% from the field despite shooting 19% from 3. Yeah. That's all you need to know about this man and how dominant he is in the post and in the paint. And I'll say this about Pascal. Nothing good happens when he shoots a 3. But when he's in the post, almost 95% of the time, something good happens. A guy gets an open shot. He makes a good pass. He beats his man in the paint. He takes his little one-legged floater from the free throw line. And when he's in the flow, he's a much better shooter. I will say this. What I've noticed beyond is when he's a standstill shooter, he looks really uncomfortable taking the shot. Mm-hmm. Very uncomfortable. It's almost like he knows it's not going to go in.
Yeah. Right. It's too much time to think, right? It's I'm not sure you're a football guy, right? If you sit that PK, right, and you just bang for the whistle to blow, can we just get this over with? If you watch soccer enough, you can tell when a dude's gonna miss that kick, and you can sit there.
Yes,
I've sat there many times. I'm sure with your spouse, this dude is not making this kick. You can see it after a while, right? So I think there's a little bit of that going on here with Pascal with the 3-point shot, where it just ends up the ball feels like a lead in your hands after a while. And I think, a field goal kicker in football, same thing, right? That's why they put him out there. They put the time out there, ice him some more, and you can watch the kicker going around this dude ain't making this field goal.
Yeah, I also think what you're saying about him getting into the flow with Schroeder and Scottie occupying certain areas of the floor where they're going to take jump shots on the flow, i.e. Scottie's done it a lot where he's run in and taken a three, running in. Schroeder's done it. It's almost like Pascal doesn't have the space to operate and do that if he wants to because he's being run around the court as a roamer.
That is part of it. But I guess the example I'm looking at is like those partial breaks
Yeah.
where it's not a full break, but you have a little bit of an advantage. Just pull up for three, right?
Yeah.
And like we've seen Scottie do it. We've seen a couple other guys. Trent would do it once the blue moon. Just pull up for three. You got the
Yeah.
green light. Just, it's him being responsible because he's thinking of it from the standpoint of like it's a bad shot. I don't want to take
Right.
a quick shot because I'm not a great 3-point shooter. I get that. I would get that, to your friends in this case, like Boucher and Precious. If they were to do so, I'd be like, what the hell are you all doing? But for him in this case here, I think it's something that I think is a requirement for him because I think that would help him. I think he hit one against Chicago at the end of the buzzer for three.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing to think about, right? He just pulled up, boom, all of that. And I think that's the problem. Too much thinking is going on right now.
Yeah, the one against Chicago where DeRozan got pissed, I think that was him, and he just made it and threw his hands up. So maybe he just needs to stop thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's simple sometimes, but I think there's a psychology to this in this case that's going on.
Yeah. For those there's a lot of Pascal's a very polarizing figure right now, to the point where he's becoming Fred VanVleet in the last year of his contract. But for those who think that he's not valuable, the team has a very positive record when he scores over 20 points a game. That's all I'm going to say. I don't have the exact numbers here, but they need him to be an effective player in the post if they want to win games. I don't know how they're going to do it with the log jam they have out there at that starting lineup, but Darko, I thought he was going to experiment with his lineups, but he's gone with the exact same lineup for all 20 games. So I don't know.
I guess to try to put a button on this point, one other thing you didn't mention when you talk about positives that come through when he has the ball in the mid range or the post, he gets the free throw line more than anybody else on his team by a wide margin. Right? It's not even close. He's like getting there like 7-8 times a game. I think he's almost up to 7 a game again. Right? Some guys, a good night for any of the other guys like 4. So the numbers tell you, man.
Yeah, he has the moves. I find when Scottie goes in there, he kind of tries to power his way in and runs into people and doesn't get the call as much, whereas Pascal's a little more slithery and he'll go underneath guys' arms and get calls that way. So Scottie's a little bit younger. Pascal's a little more experienced, gets the calls a little bit more. We know how refs are. They call more for experienced players than for rooks. This is how it goes. Scott in his third year, he'll get there hopefully, but not right now. Now, speaking of Fred VanVleet, I'm only going to talk about this because I got annoyed, and hopefully Beyond doesn't mind because I don't like talking about former Raptors. But he did an interview with Woj and said some interesting things. Now, for those who didn't hear, Pascal also repeated this very saying today about Scottie Barnes. For those who were listening, it was very similar to this. So I'll just say that Pascal was in on this well. And for the most fans who watched last year, they would agree with this. Freddie basically said it was just a matter of time that they were going to go to Scottie Barnes to lead the offense. Now, here's my problem with this. Last year, there was zero indication that they were going to Scottie Barnes. Zero. Fred VanVleet had the ball in his hands. He was shooting as much as he wanted so he could get his bag. So I don't know where he got that idea from, but maybe Beyond can help me.
Yeah, I would say, to be fair, the beginning of the season, it was the whole Freddie, there was old Scottie being point guard. And to be fair, the first maybe month of the season, Fred was being a spacer. And he was playing like crap. Let's call it what
he was. He was.
Right? Yeah. And he was, to be fair, he was to be a spacer, I think. And it had mixed results. So I'll just put it that way with Scottie being point guard and Fred being a spacer. It had its moments, but overall, I don't think, at some point in this case, be it Fred complaining about or Nick Nurse was looking and say, this ain't working, they went back to what they knew. So that's all I'll leave it as that.
Yeah, I felt like Scottie was a passenger for a lot of last year. And if you listen to the comments from not even just Fred VanVleet and even Pascal Siakam, who just recently said it in a very nice way, because we know how nice Pascal Siakam is. Thad Young also said this last year. Scottie Barnes appeared to be a passenger last year for many, many games. For us fans watching, there's no denying that. that he would come on, play great games or great quarters, and then disappear for the rest of the game, or disappear for the first 3 quarters and show up in the fourth. This is not something we don't know. The fact that the players are coming out with it is just confirmation for us. I just found this funny. Fred goes, I was uncertain about making a change, but the meeting with Houston kind of sealed it. Fred, the money sealed it. They gave you $43 million. You weren't leaving that on the table to come back to Toronto. So please don't tell me it was the meeting and the opportunity and Ime and all this stuff. They fed you the bag. They made you the third highest paid guard in the whole league. What are your thoughts on that, Beyond?
Yeah, I mean, but I think if I'm playing devil's advocate from the player's perspective, if one team's offering 30 or 31 million, the other team's offering 40 million at this point here, like it ends up being, I'm not saying it's monopoly money, but at this point, there's other things that have to be, because like you're telling me Fred couldn't live off of 30 million, right? Like, right? Like it ends up being more about other things when it's all said and done. Opportunities, where you want to live, blah, blah, other things, what family thinks, other things as well. Who's coaching you, so on and so forth.
Yes.
So to be right, because I mean, he wasn't going to go start with a new coach. You can imagine him with Darko right now.
Oh, God. No. Oh, God, no.
So I don't think, Brittany plays like every 5 seconds.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. It would have been a disaster.
Yeah. So I think from his perspective, that's where I got it, what my take was with it. And like, he could understand, he gets to kind of run the show in Houston, and to be fair, he's playing well in Houston, man.
Yeah,
so
he is.
And Houston's playing well. So Fred's a good player. There's no two ways about that. It's just like Fred's style of play, I think, it's worn thin within the fan base, and maybe to some in the Raptors organization. I don't think to all, but I think to some. But I thought the insights were interesting, because the part about saying they're going to build around Scottie, I found fascinating, because this team sends so many mixed messages, because they're saying they're building around Scottie, but only about a month after they had the discussion with Fred, they're out there throwing out their hat with Damian Lillard trades. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean, right? Like, it's all over the place. One second they want to trade Pascal. I was like, no, we want to get Damian Lillard. What is it? So it's one thing so like, I guess my only part is with that is that how invested are they in for the Scottie Barnes experience so far? I think they're moving closer to it, but I don't think as the season started they were completely sold on it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for the most part, it looks like they've given him the keys. Like, Scottie's playing with a freedom that I have not seen him play with since he's been a Raptor. He's not afraid. He has the green light. He can take as many shots as he wants. He can do what he wants with the ball. Whereas I guess Dennis Schroeder in certain respects also has that, but that's because of the coach. Whereas Pascal really doesn't have that. I get the feeling like it's almost like he's uncomfortable because he doesn't have that freedom.
It's an interesting. I'll just say this with the Pascal situation. With that, it's almost a bit of a tug of war between a few different things. I think partially it started off with he and the coaching staff. I think they've come to a good medium at this point. But at the same time, I think there's also this part with him, and this goes back to the press conference beginning of the year with Masai, when he's banding around about selfishness, right? So like these things, there's certain words are trigger words to players, and that is one of them. And I think that's still in his head a little bit, because there's times where it's old Pascal had a matchup. He's like, okay, go ahead and do your thing. And I think he's just, he's like, okay, I don't want to be the dude to be considered to be the bad guy here. So I'm going to run your offense as best as I can. I'll take, and once you give me a few possessions, do my thing, we're good. And that's what I think. Now, the question I have to say is like, and I guess I'm not sure you'll discuss this, is 20 games in, has Darko finally figured out what he's going to be doing?
I don't think so.
That is the question leading out the 20 games now. The experimentation phase should be finished now.
Well, if that's the case, then I don't know why he's still experimenting with 4 guys and Scottie, and now switching to OG, which was an absolute embarrassment in the last game. That was ridiculous. Come on, man.
Yeah, OG's interesting. I think OG is a guy. Quite honestly, I'll say it right here. I don't know if I said on Basketball Rewind, but in my mind, OG's out of here.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah,
he's gone.
Yeah,
The question is now if the front office will be wise enough to actually trade him before then and try to get something, But I have no doubt in my mind he's gone. There's no way
Yes.
the role he's playing here, his usage is dropped even more. It's dropping
Yeah.
as the season goes on. It's not.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It was lower than last year's to start the season, and it's getting like lower as the season's going on. He's had some tough nights, shooting wise, but that's always OG streaky with him. So, yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see what they do with him because I think a lot of talk around Pascal to me, the guy to watch about how they deal with his OG.
Yeah, I hope that Masai doesn't play the respect card again because I really don't want to lose another player for nothing because of respect. So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
let's not do that again.
I mean, there's ways to go about it. Like, I mean, like that idea about respect, I think is a bit of a cop out from Masai because I think
Of course it is.
Yeah, Masai just wanted to make sure that Masai just didn't want to quote lose on a deal. That's what he felt like he was going to be doing instead of just like do right by the player if you want to send him to a position, an area where you might have a chance to play in the playoffs for a chance for a championship, and you might get a couple of little things out of it, and you move on. But when you have expiring contracts, you're not going to get much, dude. Like you're just not.
Yeah. Just to close out the Fred thing, in fairness to Fred, I think he knew his time was up like all of us knew his time was up. I think he knew that Nurse was going to leave, that they had a very close relationship, and once that happened, that he was going to want to play for an experienced coach. It just so happened that Houston hired Ime and he got $43 million. I will say that I've watched some of Houston's games. He's turned Alfred Sengun into a monster with the pick and roll. So I give him a lot of credit for that because I did not think Sengun was this good. And he has turned him into a monster. So
you know what? It'd be fair to say, Goon, he was pretty good without Fred, but Fred's kind of opened him up even more so because I think there's less clutter now. What Houston's done is took some of those young guys and pretty much picked which young guys are we going to keep and which ones we're going to move on from, and they made their decision, which now has made it easier for him to be actually featured with the vets they have there. So it's obviously they think right now that Green and Şengün are a little ahead of some of the other young guys. I think Jabari Smith Jr. is moving there because I think he's moving the starting lineup now, where like Jeff Green was kind of playing there, and they're now moving him there. And to be honest with you, those should be the three guys they focus on. No respect to Terry Eason, Josh Christopher, and everybody else, but they're nice players. But those three are the key guys.
And you got your boy Dylan Brooks there doing the talking and getting on LeBron. And that's who he is, though. You know what? That's who he is. Love him or hate him, that's who he is.
He is, but he never learns. He never learns.
Never learns.
LeBron even got the coach toss the other night, man.
Man, that was so. I have never in my life seen something like that. Maybe back in the 80s when the Knicks were playing the Bulls, we'd hear it, but we never actually heard it. But man, he called him a B right to his face. I've never seen that before. It's crazy.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't know what LeBron said to him.
He called him soft. I mean, it was crazy.
There's rumors about what this was about, but that's for other shows. I'll leave that for other.
Let's leave that for other shows. That was interesting though.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh man, basketball is crazy outside of the Raptors, guys. Anyone, I encourage any Raptor fan watch other basketball because there's some interesting stuff.
See what basketball actually supposed to look like.
Yes. Watch other teams like Oklahoma. Watch OKC. Watch SGA become basically a perennial MVP candidate. Watch Nikola Jokic. Watch how amazing he is. Watch other players, guys. That's all I'm going to say. It'll really help you because if you just watch the Raptors, you won't have much hair left at the end of the year. It's just not healthy for you. So watch other basketball. This in-season tournament, I will fully admit I was wrong. This has been great. It's been great. Yesterday, having just those two games featured was brilliant by the NBA. They had another two today featured, also great. The Suns and the Lakers are on right now. I'll get to that after this show. But yes, it's worked out. I was wrong. So
no, it's been fantastic. I'm with the same boat with you. I wasn't paying much time. I was like, okay, whatever. This is like this gimmick or whatever the case may be. But it's brought out a certain type of intensity. It's gotten people talking about things more, even outside of the typical basketball fan. And the intensity of it has now brought more viewership and more interest at the beginning of the season. So it's because it should wrap up right in time for when Christmas, where a lot of casuals would likely join at that point. They're kind of
Mhm.
looking at peeking into things a little earlier, and it's been great. I can't wait to see when they get to Vegas what it's going to look like.
All right. Well, now I'm going to get to my boy that you see right there. Now, I have not talked to Beyond about Gradey Dick since he's been drafted, and this is the first time. So I'm really interested in his perspective. We haven't talked about him in detail. We had a couple of
No,
shows
no, you're
together,
right.
but
I guess,
we
yeah,
haven't, right?
yeah. I guess because
So
all the time we have, but we haven't talked about it on the show. Yeah.
now I'm going to go into his comments that he made. I'll say this: this kid is very well spoken. He's not afraid. He'll own up to his stuff. He'll talk to the media even though he doesn't have to. And I really liked what he said. He said, "I haven't changed my shot in my entire life." They basically questioned if his shot's been changed,
Mm-hmm.
as it looks like he had a little bit more of a hitch because he's shooting further back than the college line.
Mm-hmm.
He said he's never changed a shot in his life. His mom made it at age 3. His issue is the 3-point line is further back, and he might be adjusting for that, maybe pushing his shot a little more. He needs reps, and he needs to get used to the 3-point line.
I
Everything,
think
yes, everything,
there's one
yes,
other element too that I think they'll get used to is the speed. I
yes,
think closeout is kind of catching him off guard a little bit. Sometimes you've seen it already where he's gotten caught in traveling, right? Where he's
yes,
about to go up and it's like, oops, the guy's there and he puts the ball back down as a travel. So,
yes.
or he forces a bad pass because he has to get rid of it like a hot potato. So that speed of the closeout is he's just got to get used to as well too.
Yeah. Now, I'm here to tell you I'm a fan of Gradey Dick. I know he's been bad. Let's just get that out of the way. I know he's shooting 24% from 3. I know he's struggling. I'm not here to make excuses for him. I'm just going to tell you what I think. They drafted this kid, and I don't think personally they had a plan for him. He wasn't going to start, and coming off that bench is as bad a situation as you could possibly be in. Guys, look at the bench now. It doesn't matter that Dick's not there. It's still terrible. You got guys that are minus 90s on the year on that bench right now. Minus 90 guys. And you know who I'm talking about. And the other guy that I'm going to talk about is not far behind at minus 60 in Precious Achua. So listen, nobody's going to be successful on that bench. Okay. So here's my point. Either they think he's terrible and needs reps to get his shot together, or there because there's no excuse for him not to play on this bench because it's horrific. It's a terrible bench. Or they just don't want him sitting on the bench and they want him to get better and they don't want to lose the kid right away. But to have zero plan for him, to have no offensive sets for him, to never put him in the starting lineup with the actual starters, it to me is a crime punishable by by law, because I just don't get it. Why did you draft him if you had no plan for him? Um, he's improved in the 905 slightly, but I think he cannot be colocoed. And Beyond will know what I'm talking about here. You cannot coloco this guy for 50 games. You cannot do that. Not with a bench that's as atrocious as ours. I would rather him struggle playing more minutes and trying to get his shot up in the actual NBA than sit down there in the 905 with that garbage team just jacking up shots. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever whether he's down there or up here, except that he's going to play with players that actually know how to get him the ball. But if Darko's not running anything for him, then maybe, yeah, send him down there because he's not going to get any minutes. What's your thoughts on what they've done with this kid so far, Beyond?
Um, it's interesting because like he's kind of like he's a microcosm of exactly with some of the ailments or what ails the Raptors a lot of times. I really question how much the Raptors know their personnel sometimes.
Yeah.
So like so we were just talking. We started off the pod talking about Pascal, right? And how many threes you were saying, how much he's shooting, and trying to understand like why aren't we just getting the ball to him more in the post, right? Or even the mid range. With Gradey in my mind, they thought of Gradey as he's going to be a spot up guy in the corner shooting threes. And like I mentioned this on Basketball Rewind, we were honored to have Louis Zatzman on the show about a week or two ago, and I brought this point up at that time. It's like guys that shoot those corner threes usually are like 10-year vets. They're used to
Yes.
knowing they're going to get like 4 shots a night, and they're always ready for those 4 shots. Your PJ Tuckers, your Danny Greens, your Otto Porters. Those guys know what they're ready. They're ready that time to. A guy's an All-American player that's used to having the ball or being involved in plays every day, a blue chip university or team, to come there and say, "Hey, guy, you're gonna get 3 shots sitting in the corner." When he's a motion shooter, it's like
Yes.
every time he shoots the ball on the move, he actually shoots it better than standing still.
Yep.
Q, guys, Q. You might want to run a few steps for the dude. Once again, we keep talking about this thing like rhythm. Again, here we are again with a guy in this case here with a certain rhythm. Let him get going. A couple stagger screens. We have a great guy at set screens in Pirtle. We don't even think about running anything off of that for him. Like it's like he comes in there, and then to your point, the team when he comes off the bench, the guys he's playing with can't create anything for him actually. So there's no one's actually creating any gravity for him to have an open look, even if he shoots it, for a catch and shoot. And then the other problem is that, okay, if you have a guy in this, you only have a lot of guys on that second unit that actually can pass. So his other skill set in this case, which is really good cutting and moving without the ball, is wasted because he's got guys on there that can't do it,
Yep.
with the exception of Scottie. And that's it. So like you're sitting there going like, what are we doing here? Like it's so like I don't know what the coaching staff is. I'm curious to see coming up the 20 games. That's the point I mentioned earlier. The experimentation should be over, and I should be, we should be seeing some more consistency of how you're using some of these players and understanding your personnel better. And one last point with Gradey, which is kind of Gradey adjacent. If you're going to send Gradey down to 905, would anyone not think then that Otto Porter would get more minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's been reversed. Otto Porter's barely been seen since Gradey went down to 905, so I don't get it. But
Beyond, you and I are on the same page here, but I'm going to ask this anyway. What did Malachi Flynn and Precious Achiuwa do to get automatic 20 minutes per game?
They are two players that Masai Ujiri has a lot of faith in. That's what it comes down to.
I just don't get it. I don't get it. Even if I take the Gradey part aside because he has struggled with his shot, Otto Porter is a 40% three-point shooter, and the team can't hit threes. He can defend well. Even if it's for 15 minutes, you put him out there. He's not playing at all.
My theory is that Masai Ujiri is fighting ghosts from basketball seasons past. And what I mean by that is I think he's trying to prove that Nick Nurse was wrong. He didn't know what he was talking about. I have little players on here. He just didn't know how to use it. Instead of actually trying to win games, right? Yep. Because to your point, if you're anyone looking at this and you're watching the game, if you're a neophyte or you're the hardcore and you know as much basketball as Hubie Brown, you can see here is like these guys here are not ready to be NBA rotational players. They're not. Yeah. And like even someone like Boucher at this point should be more like almost like a relief pitcher, like a junk ball relief pitcher. You can throw in once in a while. They kind of change the pace. But I don't think he's a guy who should be like a 9-10 man rotation consistently either. But he wants to prove the point that my guys can play. It was Nick Nurse's fault. My guys can play.
Yeah, but he also drafted Gradey Dick, and he's making him look terrible. So, like, I don't, you know what I mean? It's like,
right. But he and many others are getting sacrificed for this experiment.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, guys. I'm sorry. You got a guy. I can accept that he's struggling right now, but when you don't use his skill set properly, I mean, I'm not making this up. I watched Gradey Dick very, very closely all through his first few games. He does the same play on offense every time they get the ball. Whether he grabs the rebound, steals the ball, or is just in the play, he runs to the corner every single offensive possession and does not move from that corner. They have no screen set up. They have no offense. They have no plays for this guy. He stands in the corner. That's all he does.
For folks that are not aware of what Reese and I are talking about, just go and watch the Indiana Pacers and watch how Buddy Hield's used. That's how Gradey Dick should be used. Yeah. And watch how Buddy Hield be coming off of ghost screens, Buddy Hield be coming off of curls, staggered screens, pick and pops, you name it. It's like he's just always moving. And like that's what we should be doing, Gradey. And the thing about it is, to Gradey's credit, it shows you how much of a reputation he has. When he's moving, you can see the defense. He's one of the few guys, we talk about this term gravity all the time. We know Pascal's probably the only person really that gets the consistency of gravity, obviously. But Gradey, in a small sample size, it seems like a guy could actually do it too. because when
Yeah.
he's moving around, folks are shifting. The defense is slightly shifting, make sure like, they're calling, make sure you got him coming around this curl like the few
Mhm.
times he does move. So like,
Mhm.
I don't know why we're not using that to our advantage, where it's like, okay, guys could use even him as a decoy move in this case here. Someone could
Yeah.
slip a screen and go to the hoop. Like, there's ways to use Gradey even if he's not shooting the ball. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty much as you said before. There's a lack of creativity, I think, overall with this offensive approach.
Yeah, they've made him easy to guard. If
Yeah,
he's standing in a corner, all the guy's got to do is look at him and put his hand out.
right.
If he's moving, whether he gets the ball or not, it creates havoc in space in the areas where Darko likes to pass the basketball. So it
Mm-hmm.
just makes zero sense. You thought I would have thought he would have been a perfect player for this offense, and it has just been nothing. Hopefully he's not colocoed. I think that he should be brought up. Maybe he'll be brought up after Christmas. It looks like he's going to be there for December, but
Well,
I
yeah,
think they need his skill set. I really do.
no, I agree. And the other thing too is like I thought he would play a ton of minutes with Pascal, and
Yeah.
he's hardly played any.
No, they did. They went to the Scottie bench lineup, which is a joke. So basically, it's Scottie trying to create his own shot while everyone stands around and watches, or you have Precious chucking up threes, or Malachi Flynn chucking up threes. That's their second unit, guys.
Well, yeah. I
Like,
I made my rants clear on Twitter or X about why they had the second unit.
yeah, yeah. So if Dick can't play for that unit, either he's terrible, which he's not, or the Raptors, there's something wrong internally because it's just like he should be able to play on that bench. A guy like Jalen McDaniels barely sees the floor too. Granted, he really struggled early as well, but he has a skill set they could also use.
Yeah, I think the last couple of games he's looked a little better.
Yes.
That's hopefully something, but I think it comes down to the fact that I think what you're saying maybe you might be hinting at. What I'm hinting at maybe is like there needs to be some inventory moved out from that bench in this case to get other people to put it that way.
Yeah. Guys, I think we're all waiting for trades here. We really are. They've had 20 games, and now we're waiting for the trades to happen. We might be waiting a while because Messiah moves like molasses, but that's what we're waiting for right now. This team is what it is, and they're just going to be inconsistent and drive us crazy all year. But that's our show for today. We only have a minute left. I'd like to really thank Beyond for coming on and giving me some insight and helping me get through this time, answering these questions that I have. It's been rough. I really thought this man would be a big part of the team. He's not. So now I'm extra cranky. So I needed Beyond to help me out because I'm really upset with the way things are going these first 20 games. So thanks for coming on, Beyond.
Yeah, no problem. They keep positive, yeah. Raptor fans. They're 9-11. It could be worse. And to go, to a Reese's point, hey man, we still have some things to look forward to, for the next 2/3 of the season, man, or 3/4. Gradey time's coming.
Yes, let's hope. I'm the mouth of North Andrews. That's Beyond the Locker Room. I'll see you next time on the Reese Report.